G'day and welcome to Inforunners. I am Execute, though I may look a little different than usual. How you guys doing?
Excuse me, young man. We'd like to see your ID.
Yes, pretty much. Joined by Badges today and Old Man Algared. How you boys doing today? Good?
Yeah. Not too bad, thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Good. Can't complain.
So, this is one we probably should have grabbed Paul for, quite honestly. But we're going to do the strange sites that we'd like to see in Star Citizen. And so we've gone through and we've kind of made a list of some weird and kind of wacky things, like the wacky sites that we would like to see inside Star Citizen. Some of them that we know that they're going to put in, and other things that we would just like them to put in and stuff like that. So thought that'd be something a little different.
Yeah, I think there's something they've said going in, there's something they've hinted will go in, and there's something, hey, we just would love to see it. So
yeah. So we're going to kick it off with some exotic aliens. So I will preface this and say, just from the start, we are scratching the surface with alien creatures. We know of less than 10. What are some of them, Algared? Because you're the lore guy. So we're gonna crash on you heavily this episode. If you stuff it up, it's all your fault. But yeah.
All right. Well, couple of the critters we know of are the Osonians from Osso. They're the creatures that are kind of primitive, but they communicate by changing colour as well. So working out their language is really hard because they change colour along with the language. There's the Lear worm in the Lear system.
Yep.
Kind of like the great big worms from
Tatooine.
Dune.
June. Yeah, and Tatooine. But yep. Keep going.
There is the Yeti, which is better known as the arboreal stalker. There are two forms of space crab. There is the Throsher Grey, which is the one we all know, which is the one that's also the symbol for one of the squadrons in the UEE or the UEN. And there's also the blind crab, the one that's filled with helium and kind of expels air to move around. We also know of the space whale. I'd have to look up the name again because I've just forgotten it. But there's numerous systems. As we were Googling, there was one planet we came across, and it's just this planet had many sentient species, and one species is coming onto a land, and so that's going to change, and it's actually coming into conflict with one of the other species. So it's quite an interesting situation. So there's lots of animals that will come, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
So, Badges, could you tell me some types of aliens that you would like to see? It's totally made up. I know I'm kind of throwing you under the bus here because I didn't prepare for this, but you give me one, and I'm going to think of one, and Algared, I'd like you to think of one or two. But I'm picking Badges first because he hasn't spoken the longest.
I'd love to see some, not channeling the alien vibe too much. I'd like to see some solitary, predatory, extremely high threat alien species that either inhabit wrecks or basically, you go onto a wreck and it's very quickly clear that something's gone horribly wrong, blood everywhere, bodies and all that sort of stuff. And these things are incredibly hard to kill, and you've kind of got to get away. Maybe they can survive in the void. So there's always the threat that they follow you back to your ship.
Well,
maybe something that's a bit more technologically advanced, like I always forget the number, but there's that species in Star Trek that go after the Borg.
You know what is just
7 something.
Species 8472, and you're actually describing a scene from Lost in Space that I bring up to Algared all the time when I talk about salvage.
It does.
Yeah, and there are these. So basically, they land on this ship, and there's all these little pods that are like stuck to the walls, stuck to the outside and stuff. And then basically, these spiders kind of come out of hibernation, and they can literally eat through metal and everything like that. And they basically just go absolutely nuts, and it's just like an absolute little firefight trying to get back to their ship. And when they get up back to their ship, they start trying to fly through space to get to them. And the whole movie's based on these spiders. So
Getting away from the spiders is basically the story of that. Matt LeBlanc, is it?
Matt LeBlanc
was not the main character, but the young.
I'm going to pick another movie though, based on what you were saying. You were talking about Advanced Predator. I would like to see the alien creatures from Pitch Black that can't survive in the sun. So there's this random planet that, like, it goes like it's a planet that goes behind another really big planet every time it does like one cycle around the sun, and it's like once every 10 years. And they come out and they just kill everything on the planet, like. And there's all these like homes, and they're all abandoned. No one knows why, and it's because.
And I know I'm mixing my film references here, but that planet absolutely needs a creepy little girl NPC with the line, "They mostly come at night." Mostly. Or something like that.
Maybe that's the name of the planet. Mostly.
Get out. Lock exterior. Go.
I'm sorry, my Doctor Who background, and you just got the image of, "Are you my mother?"
All right, Algared. What about yours then? What alien animal race you would like to see?
I'd like to see lots. I'd like to see. I really do want to see the sandworm. But I just want to. I'll be honest. I want to see animals and livestock on the planets. Whether it's just, I know it sounds boring, but animals that we can actually kill and harvest for food. Animals that we have to kill just to defend ourselves, just because they're on the planet. That's just because I think once they're on the planet, I know they're not unique and I know they're not special, but it just fills out the world and makes the worlds feel more believable. And
Badgers, now when I look at Algared, all I can see is, that photo of the husband and wife farmers, with the...
Oh, bless. I was actually getting vibes of the Serenity, where they have to transport cows through space. It was now I just want to be a space cowboy.
Yeah, but boring. They're boring as batshit, but they give so much depth to the world. What makes Serenity feel like it's a space cowboy in that first episode? It's the fact that they're lugging cattle, and mucking out the stalls that they've got to put in, and they're complaining about it. It kind of works.
Definitely be a market for live cargo on ships and stuff. All right, I'm going to move on then, because we've been a while and we've still got a few others to hit off here on the list. So, Algared, the one that you put down here was Comets and Rogue Asteroids. So you want to talk about that for a bit? Yeah,
well, in terms of one of the things that, as you know, Execute, when CIG was doing the surveys of what people want to do back in the early days, it was like 70% were saying they wanted to do exploration. And with 100 systems, we'll eventually run out of things to do in those systems to find. We'll have searched every planet. We'll have mapped every point of interest in the planets. But the systems are big. Like even Stanton, which is a fairly small system in the scheme of things, is fairly large. But if we had comets that were passing through the outer reaches of the system for a period of time, that gives exploration something to find, something to go explore. Rogue asteroids might be rich in minerals, again, passing through the rim of the system, or passing through a rim of a system, or being on a collision course, down the track for another system. And so we have to go and that generates missions to go and mine it or blow it up. Think of the movie Asteroid, to go back to a movie theme. So, yeah.
What do you think about that, Badges?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but, I think there also needs, in terms of exploration, there needs to be stuff for the smaller explorers, the ones with limited range, and this, random events coming through that may not be seen again, well within range of stations, well within the jump range of the smaller explorers is perfect for that sort of stuff. So, all for it.
And I think one of the things that ties in with that is, we were talking the other day when we were talking the types of missions you'd want, like PvP missions and PvE missions and the PvP / missions. This would clearly be something that would, on the surface, be a straight up PvP mission. But a PvE mission, just going in, searching, exploring the thing. And then if it's got rich resources, then it might be come into a PvP or PvE co-op, or if there's a creature that's on that asteroid or floating around that that Comet map could become a PvE, PvP co-op. So there's lots of options in terms of what they could do with those, just to add to missions or other things. But just having those to give something for explorers to do is awesome.
Yeah, I also did say before the show, it'd be really cool if there was some kind of event where there was an asteroid coming to hit a planet, and you've got to drill into it and put blast charges into something and blow it up. Kind of like Armageddon in the movie. We're doing a lot of movie references here today. I'm noticing this all of a sudden. But that probably has got to bring out that sci-fi geek in us, and that's probably why we're kind of doing this episode a little bit.
We're nerds, face it.
So the next one I put down Gravity Tech and Gravity Wells. We do know from Squadron 42 that they've got a lot of gravity tech to do with the Zion and some of the Vandal stuff and stuff like that. But I was thinking in space you could actually have some gravity anomalies too, where you could just hit a pocket and the whole ship just falls like 100 meters for no reason, because of some kind of gravity well, or gravity is upended on certain planets. One of the ones I have listed later on is a shattered planet. And a shattered planet could have different gravity wells because of that. Anyway, what do you guys think of something like that?
When you first mentioned that, as you remember earlier, the first thing I thought of was that's just jump points execute. That's what jump points are. Flying along, you get caught in a gravity well, sucked through. But yeah,
it's true. But I'm thinking more anomalies and stuff as well. But yeah.
What
about you, Badges? Anything there that you could add to that, or?
I think that covers it. I mean, it depends how kind of crazy you want to go. You could do things that are localized and random and kind of temporary. You could do entire systems that are based on, this anomaly that's drawn together these random lumps of stuff. And maybe that's the whole point, is that's the charting, constantly shifting safe corridors. And that will create, and there's something at the core of this system that's exceptionally valuable or whatever. The explorers, it gives them something that will never, it's not like you can do it once, that's it, done it. If everything's constantly shifting, that would be something.
You're making me think of a planet that kind of like rotates between two suns, and so it's like this extreme gravity that is pulling on it, and if you go the wrong place, you could pull off the planet literally.
Squish.
Yeah, or squished. That's an even better one. Just like, my head, snap. Head popper.
The visuals.
Yeah. All right, so the next one we got here is mass wreck sites. Now, this was put on there by you, Badges, so you lead the show on this one.
Yeah, I like the notion that, we've got everything in the Star Citizen universe is going to be on the backdrop of the story that's coming out of Squadron 42, that humanity is facing this persistent aggression from Vandal. So, to have things happen that are part of that, fleet battles between the UEE and the Vandal, it would be cool to see things, like Newsflash, battle held at, or, battle at UEE in full retreat, or, Vandal turned away, and you go to that location, and there's now a mass wreck site, and there are people trying to salvage it, and there are a couple of Vandal raiders left over to up the threat for people, and all that sort of stuff would be great. I mean, I think we're going to see it anyway in the aftermath of player versus player stuff, because the wrecks are going to persist. But to have that kind of tie-in with in-game events will add another layer of authenticity, and it means you're actually watching the in-game news not just because you're flying from point to point and you've got nothing else to do at that moment, but as a salvage captain, you're like, where next? Where next? Where's my next payday coming from? Great battle, woo!
What you mentioned there with the TV and stuff, that would be relevant to everything, like even the Comets and Asteroids. Like, I could see that coming up on a lot of things, actually. It's a really good way to disseminate the information. But with the mass wreck sites... sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go on. You go first.
I was just going to say, with the mass wreck sites, in Freelancer, they did actually have systems you could fly into, and there were actually bits of debris that would actually, like, ping off the hull of the ship, because there was just so much in the system. I remember there was one that was like, apparently they said the system had been a former Dyson sphere, but the whole thing had been destroyed, and so there's just wreckage everywhere. And that would actually even relate to, like, you could probably go to systems where the whole planet has been destroyed, and there's like little asteroids that are just constantly tinging off your hull and things like that as well.
That's
anyway,
you were saying about the news thing and the news sites being able to do. It's a really interesting alternate way of delivering missions to people. And rather than saying, right, we're going to do this in the form of a contract, you're going to get waypoints, is just offering up opportunities to players.
It's a bit like the way in which we see the Xeno threat introduced with the announcements, coming through the speakers, and then you go to your Mobilus and you can accept the mission to sign up for the civilian defence force. So, I like that idea, and that would tie in whether it's a UEU threat, a Xeno threat.
We are dangerously close to going off tangent here, but I just had this idea. Imagine if there were multiple news channels, and I know you've talked about this in the past, Badges, about having players actually do the news, but the way they get paid is people subscribe to their channel with Alpha UEC, and so or UEC, that could be so interesting. And if they're too slow to disseminate it, you'll drop their sub and take another sub, like almost like signing up for like private aired channels and stuff.
What you're saying there is that your news channels become really important for Inforunners.
Yeah. Exactly. No, for everyone. So you could have people that do generalized news. You could have people that just do salvage news, mining news.
I don't mean us, Inforunners. I mean.
The heralds and stuff, but
those who are wanting to do that.
This then ties into the data gameplay of there's been a battle in this system. Well, I mean, narrow it down for me a bit. This is huge. So then you're into, do you bribe locals to find out where this battle was held and get leads? Are you going to listen into UEE communications to try and get locations, and possibly from the criminal aspect, and get that?
So there's a whole episode there, right? I think we do that next week, maybe, or the week after.
Write it down, Execute.
Yeah, we have to write it down. All right, so we'll put that one on the back burner for now. So after mass wreck sites, because I know we're going to go off on the tangent, I can see we're all primed to talk. I just know these guys too well. Algared wrote down here, drifting old ships. And after Algared explained this, I had more ideas to follow it up. So go ahead, Algared.
Again, it was just the idea of kind of following on the idea of comets and asteroids. Again, an old wrecked ship passing through the system, and that again gave you reasons to go and investigate as an explorer. But it also opens a way for those aliens or monsters to be on the ship. So it's not just one of the things we've often talked about in terms of salvage and exploration go hand in hand together.
I just Googled the show. So I was talking to you guys before the show. I said there was this really old warship in this show, and the show was called Foundation. It was on Apple Plus or Apple TV, and basically they had this old warship that just kept, like, people would see it, and there was all these random things about, we'd seen this. It was this massive, huge warship, and it's been lost for 1,000 years or whatever. Anyway, they found it when they got on board. They found that it was randomly warping every couple of days to a completely random location in the entire verse. And I said to these guys, wouldn't it be really cool if there was some kind of alien ship, and there'd be different ways you could do it, but like maybe there's some valuable loot on there, and if you can get on, defeat the defenses and stuff, and get the loot off before it warps and go somewhere else, and their warp tech could be different to ours, so they could literally jump from system to system. They don't have to do warp jumps or whatever. And maybe even if it was a human ship, you could actually claim it. So maybe it's like a rogue Bengal or something, like different ideas I had there. So yeah.
And we know from the lore there are ships out on the edges of the systems that are lost and drifting, and so being able to search for those or find those just gives that explorer gameplay so much more option. Again, it becomes something. It could be just PvE, it could be PvP, it could be PvE /PvP. You could be critters on there. Could be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what if there were people still living there? Like the ship was busted, but you had to get them off. before
Rescue mission.
they've been living there with hydroponic farms or whatever for 10 generations, but they had no way to get off the ship, so
it becomes a rescue mission.
Or what if it's busted? Like there was an episode in Star Trek where this planet came out of phase, and it came out of phase like once every 35 years or something, and people could come and go off the planet. And what if it was like that, where it's a ship that just warps in, and then it only stops to like recharge its solar batteries in particular spots like every couple of years or something, and so you can only get onto it. That could be interesting, because if you know the path, you can see the path it's going to go, and it's like, all right, we'll see you in 10 months over there, and you could actually like get special quests from ships like that. I don't know, that could be something.
And they're in a time loop, so they don't age, but we do, or I think we don't age and they do.
I think time sensitivity might be an ongoing theme now. I look through some of these, but yeah, it's a thing that could happen. All right, so the next one that I wrote down here was alien ruins and unknown things that it brings. And what this what I thought of when I think of these is things like Indiana Jones temples. So like temples that are full of traps and stuff. Yeah. The rolling boulder, all that type of jazz. What type of would you guys like to see that when you explore the ruins? Or are you more into like decoding the text and trying to figure out the language, or just all the unknowns that come with that? Because to me that seems really, I'd love to do that kind of thing.
One of the things, so I have Elite Dangerous. I haven't played it that much. One of the things about Elite Dangerous that makes me want to play it was the whole episode they had with, and I don't know the name, so apologies for the people that play it. Those ships that they were encountering, and there were all those YouTube videos about the flower petal thing that would shut your ship down, scan you, terrify people. Having that sort of long lost alien civilizations, maybe there are numerous of them, and you can become a specialist explorer in certain civilizations and relics and start to piece together the language and all that sort of stuff.
What if this is something I kind of hinted a little bit to before the show, but what if there is like clues that lead you from one location to another, and I suggested that maybe there was 5 of them across the known universe, and then as you found one to the next, it actually allowed you to get something special, like I know whatever the alien race is, crystal, and it allows you to teleport from one side to the other, but only on foot. So you actually had a unique ability to leave a ship at one, teleport to the other, have another ship there, pick up, and if you do that huge quest chain, you might unlock, say, 5 around the entire universe that just allows you to warp, where it would normally take you, like a day to get across or something, or however long, or around the ring of them or whatever, but you can just do instantly because you've completed chain X. And it doesn't just have to be one alien race. You might even have one that had a secret wormhole that no one else had, and stuff like that. And I could just see that. Secret ways to travel through older alien races, I guess is how I'd put it. Sorry.
Or they have if it's an alien race that's controlling it, they may let you go through their wormhole, but if you don't have that train, they don't let you because their military will blow you up because they're tough and scary.
Well, actually, now Algared, you make me think of that. There's that race. There was a wormhole that was open and thought to be stable, and then it closed. I can't remember the name of the system. But you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yep. Yeah. There's a human system.
And they know they're in there, but it's been closed for like the last 50 years or something. And you can just so tell that somewhere along the line they're going to open it again so people can go in there, and then it'll be open for a bit, and then they'll close it off again.
And then maybe we'll find another wormhole to go somewhere else. But yes.
Sorry, Badges, what'd you say?
Planet of the Cannibals. Yeah.
Because I got no
Time
supplies.
Machine. Just to tie it in with movies, that's Time Machine, I play.
Yeah. So another one by me was, at the moment, all the planets are basically perfectly pendulums, and they basically spin perfectly. One thing that's not a lot of people know about Uranus is it's actually, or is it Neptune? God, I get them mixed up. But it's almost completely horizontal, and it actually rolls. And so you get some really extreme seasons. So Earth itself, I think, is 20 degrees off or something like that. Like, I can't remember. I'd have to go look it up. But that's actually what causes the seasons on Earth. As it rotates around the sun, that stays the same. But because of that, you're either closer or further away as it rotates around, and that's how you get winter and summer. So seasons is essentially what I'm saying, but we could get some really extreme seasons. We do know there is a planet, I can't remember the name of it. God, I wish I'd looked this up. But there's one where it's landlocked like our moon to face the sun, and one side is literally like lava, the other side is completely frozen, and there's this strip in the middle where everybody lives. So it's just like you could be sitting there on a building looking out, one side be real cold, and one side is like molten lava. I think that's a really cool concept as well.
And it's that kind of on the peak where you've got that nice a slim green zone around the planet.
Yeah,
that kind of ties in with those special planets, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you go even as far as like the Riddick prison planet, that it does rotate, but it's so close to the sun that it's just this fireball that is constantly rotating around the planet. And there's your high security crime stat for the people who just can't let it drop. But your high security prison that's going to take some real busting people out of. Good luck outrunning that on the surface.
Yeah. Obviously, so the last couple of ones here are all planet-based. So I talked about the shattered planet before. We do have the shattered moon. I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be really interesting if it wasn't super shattered, but, like, really cracked? So basically you have to EVA, like, there could actually be gravity wells, like I suggested, and where you have to EVA between big chunks of planets and stuff like that, or literally fly between, or even go right down in deep and mine in places that you normally wouldn't be able to get to, because it's just so cracked and open. And I think that could be really interesting, especially to traverse and explore. It's a very sci-fi trope of a shattered planet, but think about back to the games you've played. How many games have you been actually able to go like through and around? Because not all of things have this scale as Star Citizen does. So, yeah. Anything you guys want to add to that?
I just think that certainly the things you're talking about there, and a scope that Star Citizen has in terms of their planets and the maps, it really is a blank canvas that they can do pretty much whatever they like.
Yep.
Which just gives so much options and so much, I suppose, to possibly look forward to. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, it's either stuff that CIG have hinted at, or we know from their comments that's coming. Which again just adds that kind of hope and everything else. We know they've talked about critters aliens being on ships that we go and investigate, whether it's a virus or something that's going to try and kill you. And that's just when you're doing salvage.
Yeah.
So,
I got another one here, and this one here is probably a bit broad, but I can give you one example, but you can think of others yourself. So I was trying to explain it to these guys earlier, is planets that go inside nebulas or that are inside nebulas that give it like way different effects to like a normal planet. So I was thinking of one, I said, what if one that's like a completely dead planet or a desert planet or something like that, but when it goes through a nebula that's a part of this system, it literally, all these plants like come to life, and it's like a literal oasis type planet. And then when it goes out of the nebula again, everything dies. It actually needs some kind of nutrients or something that nebula gives. Or it could be the complete opposite, where it's totally alive, and then when it goes in there, it poisons everything and kills everything. You could think of many different scenarios, like it goes through the nebula and the gravity of the entire planet changes. Everyone just like can't stand up because it's just so heavy. It could be outside it's completely hot, inside it's freezingly cold. Like you can think of almost anything, and a nebula could be an excuse to change it. So they could use that as a very broad overview. They could make it so that when it goes through the nebula, it grows like diamonds grow like flowers on, whatever. You can think of all the different things you could do there. So when it's in there, you can mine really, really easily, and then when it's out, it's not. Think of all the different things you could add there. So I think that would be a fairly common one, using space anomaly nebula to explain stuff.
That would be a almost a jump town type scenario, wouldn't it? Goes in, it's kind of mass producing this valuable resource, and when it leaves, it's no longer doing it. And so you'd have that.
You could do it in both ways, Algared. So you could make it so that everyone's trying to work together because it's just so damn profitable, or it's so damn rare. But you could also make it so that teams are fighting off against each other because they need that for something. So you can do it in every scenario that way. That's the thing. Like I think if it's done right, they can use lots of excuses to bring up reasons. We know at Pyro, they're talking about Pyro Station, for example, having 2 gangs, and you pick a gang, and if they have the most rep, they control the station, and you get all the benefits of the station. But then if that rep gives you X at the end of the chain, so it allows you to buy a certain ship, for example, there are other people that might want to buy the other ship, so they're going to want to push the rep the other way. You just, horses for courses.
And I think we know in Pyro, it's not just two gangs in Pyro. There are about 7 or 8 that are living in Pyro. So
yep.
There's lots of scope just in Pyro itself. So yeah.
What about you, Badges? Anything you can see there? How a nebula could be used, or some kind of special gameplay technique?
I think it's quite clear they would be useful as like like you say, the higher risk, higher reward areas, and certainly to keep things interesting, like we were saying before, with the idea of constantly shifting safe routes. That's it's going to be where you find a lot of the exploration types, maybe, and have it far out on the edges of known space. So it is, a trek just to get there. So it is the explorers, and likely only the explorers that are going to get that far. Something like that would certainly, put a big tick in the Odyssey's box, in terms of, well, why would you want the Odyssey? Well,
yeah. And actually,
sorry,
I was just going to say, it actually makes me think that that's probably how a lot of exploration is going to be, is like these, okay, so this event here happens once every 6 months. This event, so you're traveling a lot as an explorer from one place to the other because of these known events that are going to pop up. And it'll be your job as an explorer to know when those events are going to happen. I think that's
to discover when they're going on, and even try
exactly.
to work out why this is happening.
And even sell that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so this last one came about from Algared's idea of the drifting old ships, and he was talking about them leaving the system and stuff. And I remembered an episode from Star Trek that had rogue planets. So an actual, like, just in the middle of space, out of nowhere, rogue planet, or a planet that just comes in through a system again and causes an event. Maybe it's going to collide. Maybe it might turn into a shattered planet. You don't know. But yeah, that was something I thought would be really intriguing. It's just literally out in the black that's not in a system. It's like it's in the middle of nowhere. And only the hardest of explorers. Like maybe you can see it with an Endeavour from miles away, but it's like, oh man, am I going to take like 3 days at warp to get there? Because you're not going to be able to jump there. But like, is there something there that's really valuable that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so,
and part of it as well is I don't want to harp on the fear of missing out, but this is slightly different in the way that a lot of games do this. It's not just the to generate sales side that we've become so accustomed to. But what about a planet that's on a very strange orbit around, say, a black hole or something? So it's on a very strange elliptical orbit. So that only for a very short period,
like Pluto,
is it? Yeah. Well, I mean, only for a very short period is it even within range of us, even at the extremes.
So you're talking like this is the entire solar system, and it goes like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I get what you mean. Yeah.
And there's only one point where it's really safe to go.
Of their orbit, and it's decaying. So that after, say, maybe it only appears in game for a couple of days over the course of a year or maybe a year and a half of the game's life cycle before it's pulled into the star and destroyed. That'd
be so interesting. So it comes past 1 year, comes past the next time, and then the third time it's going to crash into the sun. That'd be really cool. Like, just it's coming, so it's got all this build up because it's like, oh yes, Zephyrus 4's coming again, and it's going to run into the sun.
And it becomes a destination purely for the fact that
it's going to disappear.
Not going to be there so long. It's going to be taken away. And maybe you've got like a last chance get out of jail free, like you were saying with the alien teleportation. But it's destroyed with the planet when the planet's sucked in. So it's so big, it can't be mounted to ships. You can't salvage it. You can't run away with any meaningful part of it. But for the players who leave it just too long, there's then a mad dash to this alien facility to get off before the entire planet's crushed.
Now,
but yeah, something like that, I would be
to go the opposite. To go the opposite, there's actually a system that's forming, and it'd be really interesting is if it somehow had some kind of time warp there, and you could actually see the planets form, and then and cool and stuff. I don't know. That's probably a bit too far, but yeah, so there is a system that just has lots of debris in it, and they're slowly starting to clump together to build planets. Yeah, sorry, Algared.
And the scientists don't want us to mine in that system, and then other senators want us to be able to mine in that system and strip it bare. But with the rogue planets, even if you don't have that in that elliptical orbit that's decaying and going to crash into the sun, if it's got this massive blink, but it only turns up once a year for 2 or 3 days, that's still got that, do I want to do, can I do that? Yep. Can I get there? And if you don't get off the planet, well, then you're kind of stuck on that planet until, you've basically got to stay there a year, or you've got to go backspace, respawn.
See you later. Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see that.
All right. So before we wrap up, I've got a couple of things set up here in my browser. So these are some planets in-game, and ironically 3 of them are water worlds. I don't know how that happened, but that's just how it happened. And we've got some photos here. So this is one of Algared's choices. So this is How do you say it, Algared?
Tohill.
So tell us about Tohill.
So Tohill is one of the planets that's kind of on the end of the Bremen Beltway, for those who love their lore. It is also where the Tohill Regatta takes place. It's where the Terran ambassador and the Xeon ambassador met to kind of hash out their peace treaty. And so it's kind of on the fringe of UE space and Xeon space. It's kind of, even though it's controlled by the UE, it's kind of this melting pot of everyone. But what's unique about this water world is that the islands or the landmass is actually vegetable. It's
vegetable. And are you serious?
The landmass is basically.
My mum liked this planet. She's a vegetarian. She might really.
So the mass where you can see there are the trees, that's just basically floating vegetation on the water mass, and it's so thick and so solid that people built on it. The story of the Tohill Regatta is that there's a race that goes on there, and while the race was going on, there was a mayday went out because the land masses were actually starting to sink, and all the buildings that had been built on them were going under, and so there became a massive rescue operation to save people, and that's one of the problems.
There's another event. I think this game's going to be full of events.
That system's now got the problem where they're trying to work out why those planets are starting to sink. Is it because we've overbuilt on them? Is it because we've done something to the atmosphere? Is it because we've done something else? So there's a kind of So Tohill is an interesting water world planet where the landmass is floating vegetables or floating trees.
Right.
Tohill, the vegan planet where there are signs every couple of miles, just so you don't forget.
All right, so this next one is Nemo. Now, this one, Algared, is another water planet, but this is the one that has been it's been terraformed, and there are some land masses, but it's majorly water. So what can you tell us about Nemo?
If I remember correctly, Nemo's got the land masses more or less at the poles, and that's where the settlements are. And that's pretty much it. It's other than that, it's just massive water, and I think that's where you get the. Is that where we get the
nope, that's the next one.
The big task? Okay, that's the next one. So that's pretty much it. That's all I really know about Nemo. It's water world. It was from memory, it's one of the first systems that we encountered or developed. So it's one of the old systems in the UE, I believe.
Yeah, so from this image, it looks like a lot of people live in space around it, but not actually on it. So, yeah. All right, so this one here is Helios. You might have seen this in a thumbnail in one of our live streams recently. But this actual planet is a volcanic planet that is covered in water, and there is these constantly forming of islands and stuff like that. And basically they cause these huge tsunamis that people that are into water sports really, really like. So they come and I can't see them surfing on them, but that's what it says in the details for it, that it basically causes these huge tsunamis, similar to the one in that movie Interstellar. So I think that's kind of interesting. I think it's kind of a very interesting water lava combo.
And so the racers like to race their ships and risk life and limb. Can I beat that? Can I beat the tube in my Mustang?
Yeah, which is interesting.
So rather insane, but yes.
Badges, what do you got to say about any of these planets? Nope, just nope. Okay.
That sounds like a really, really daft idea. Let's not do that.
And you work for the Coast Guard, don't you?
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of like jumping out of a perfectly good airplane?
Yeah.
So yeah,
let's not do that.
All right. Synthworld. I'm going to ask Badges to tell us about Synthworld. He probably doesn't know much, but let's see what he knows. What do you know about Synthworld, Badges?
Synthworld is in the system of Kronos. I believe it's Kronos 3. And it's basically the UE's project to create the first man-made planet.
I can tell you now, he knows more about it than I do.
But yes, it's effectively a, kind of, I suppose we were joking about this earlier, but it is in effect a Death Star kind of affair. It's completely man-made. Where it is at the moment and what's going on with it and whether or not it's been abandoned, I will defer to my good friend Algared.
It has not been abandoned, and our current Imperator is actually keen to see Synthworld continue. In the UAE, it's actually known as Project Archangel, which is a project to build the planet. And the reason the idea came about to build the planet is because of the terraforming of a planet where we wiped out a complete species. And so, oh no, we are guilty, we have to redeem ourselves. And so we figured if we can build a planet, we don't have to terraform, so we can actually leave all the others things alone. And our Imperator loves Project Archangel and the Synthworld. The problem with Synthworld is it is a money pit, and it is draining the UE top coffers. Leilani Addison points out that even if Synthworld doesn't exist, even if it doesn't work, it gives us the benefits of all the tech that comes as a produce of it. So it's almost like you go to war, and what happens in war? You develop new systems. Developing Synthworld makes us develop new systems.
Do you know what I just thought of too? Is like if the war with the Van Duel kicks off, they might actually stop working on this for a while because they'll have to fund resources elsewhere. So I got a feeling that this might be something that goes along, like maybe quite a long time of the lifespan of this game, where Synthworld is built in stages, if you know what I mean, and so we'll see it go from almost, I hesitate to say, like a husk to a finished planet. That would be kind of cool. Like you know how you got the Death Star in Episode 3, and then Episode 1 it was actually finished. Something akin to that, but in multiple stages.
Well, if you'd paid attention to the election we had last year, a couple of the candidates were actually keen to actually stop working on Synthworld and actually redirect the funds to building the infrastructure and helping rebuild the infrastructure in the UAE, or using the funds to help rebuild the Navy or along those lines. And so Synthworld actually was one of the hot potatoes and one of the key issues that were being used in the elections. But most people didn't pay attention to that. They just paid attention to, I will give you AI.
Yep. All right. Tampa now, or Tamsa, I should say. This is basically giant wormhole. It's also one of the biggest systems in the entire game.
Isn't it a black hole?
I think when what did I say? A wormhole? I meant to say black hole. Sorry, yeah, black hole. And it's one of the biggest systems in the entire game. I think the last time we looked at it was like 4.5 days just to get across it at current warp. In like, say, something like a constellation,
and you kind of need to go around because you can't go straight across.
Yeah, and that was going in straight. That was going straight, by the way. So yeah, if you've got to go round, that's even more crazy. But yeah, I just don't think it'll be more of a. I don't know. You guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think this is more of an. What do you think, Badge? Just more of an exploration hotspot.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you could do with a system that big. A lot of stuff you can do with a system that big. And again, you up the risk. You can almost have a microcosm of the game. The outer reaches being the easier, low-hanging fruit. And the closer you get to the center and the closer you get to the point of no return with the black hole's gravity, the more the rewards become, lucrative and the things that people can go after.
Planets and asteroids that are, further in that you could actually get to and get stuff off. And
I'm not 100% certain, but I also think the system is used as, because it's so barren and so big, I think it is also used as a waypoint for pirates and things to meet up and do stuff. So I'd have to double check the details on that because I haven't looked at that recently, but from memory, I think there was something like that. But it's generally a barren, empty system.
All right, next one. This one is called Tatco. This is one that I selected. I've always kind of had a weird fascination with this lava planet because of these tube cities and it's actually a Banu planet. They make a lot of black glass and stuff here for electronics. And these are actually like pushed and drilled down into the surface. And yeah, I just think it's really weird. Like you can land on the planet, but you kind of can't explore the planet because it's deathly. So I think it's kind of interesting.
So you have to go to each of those little factory type cities.
And there's storms on the planet like tornadoes and stuff like that as well. So it's very hospitable on the surface. So it's going to be
I have to correct you there. Not hospitable, but inhospitable.
Inhospitable, sorry. I think it'll be a little bit like Area 18 where it's lots of landing zones that you will go to, but you might not go on the surface of the planet itself too much because it'll be too deadly. So, yeah. Anything you want to add about that one, Badges?
No, I think that's just about covered it. It's the first time I'm hearing about Tatco, so intrigued.
You'll have to add it to your bucket list of places that you want to visit. All right.
I'm just going to visit everything.
What about this one, Algared?
This is Spider. I have to go back and have a look at the system it's in. I didn't take note when we were digging it up. But Spider is pretty much an empty system. And the UE used to use it as their naval dockyard. Not their naval dockyard, their naval
shipyard.
Mothball fleet.
Oh, mothball fleet.
So it was where all the old ships went, and they'd have a little station where they'd kind of patrol it. But they got slack. They stopped patrolling it, and then you had your squatters move in. And they started pulling ships together and, docking them together. And so you end up with this mass of ship hulls and ship bits that are constantly changing and shifting. And you've also got pirates there now as well. So it's kind of this mix of it's kind of Levski first. There's kind of Levski-esque, but also
Synthworld
type.
It reminds me of a mini Synthworld because you're like it's not a planet, but bringing them all together is like an artificial. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like a mini version.
It's kind of this massive kind of station-esque type, but it's all ships and it's constantly changing. So ships are constantly either being broken off or disconnecting and reconnecting. But you've got a population there, and the population are people who don't necessarily want to be in the Empire. So it's kind of a bit like Levski, but it's also got this pirate type of vibe to it as well. So it's kind of a bit like Grimhex. So where it actually fits in it, I'm not sure. There used to be a subscriber reward to actually create a pirate for Spider. So that gives you the idea of what they were kind of looking at in terms of what Spider is. But Spider is certainly a unique destination that we will find or be able to visit.
This is the UE Navy. You will submit to our will. We've just bolted 3 javelins together. Your laws mean nothing.
Well, it is. You may have bolted 3 javelins together, but 3 javelins that have been stripped of all their military equipment. It's literally the mothball graveyard.
Can you imagine if the whole thing moved?
Yeah,
a flying city of ships. Kind of what's that one they did a couple of while ago on Inside Star System with the Raftron or whatever it was, but it's like Spidertron. So like the legs come out and it's
Well, that's kind of in a sense what it is. It's kind of just all these ships massed joined together, and the fact that there's so many ships that are constantly changing. You could go there one day and dock at a Javelin, and the next day or the next month you go there and that Javelin's no longer there. It's been replaced by a 600i or a Bengal or a whatever. So the idea is it's constantly changing. How much we'd see that constantly changing, I have no idea. Whether it's they just have it on a rotation, but yeah, it's supposed to constantly change with ships coming and going. So,
all right. So let us know in the comments below some strange things you'd like to see in Star Citizen. Like what are some anomalies? Those types of things. So the weird sites that you would like to see in game. These are just some of the ones that we've found and the ones that we've talked about. But I really like to throw this open in the comments because I actually reckon there's probably some really creative ones out there that we haven't thought of. I assume you guys want to... Is there any that you'd like to hear about specifically? Or anything? No?
No, I'm just open to anyone's ideas. What I think is really, really valuable is if you put your ideas down, hopefully, CIG sees the video and takes a look and goes, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we got that. But if you put ideas down, there is a chance that CIG, if they're watching, will go, we hadn't thought of that. And they'll add it to their things of do. Because there's so, as I said earlier, it's such a wide blank canvas they've got to work on. They could probably do anything. So.
All right. Well, with that then, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell. If you want to go the extra mile on Patreon, you know what to do there as well. He's been Badges.
I think I did see in our analytics about 25% of the people who watch our video aren't subscribers. Now, what are you doing? Please subscribe. Make us feel good. Feed that algorithm.
All right. With that, he's been Badges. He's been Algared. No, I've been Execute. We'll catch you in the next one.
We're out of here. Take care.
Can't believe I fucking called you Alfred. What the fuck?
He looks like an Alfred, though. From Batman.